Hey, stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. I'm here at the Jump Talk with John Brandt, the coach.
And I'm here with Ian Griffin, the vet.
Man, it's a good day today.
It's a beautiful day actually out here.
It is gorgeous out here. Fall has hit us, although it's in the 70s.
Look at all the color in the trees. Yeah, it's 75, but the colors are in the trees. So
it is a gorgeous day.
Yep.
So, Coach, we had an election, man.
We did. We had an election less than a week ago, and we've have looks like we have a president-elect.
Yes.
Some are going to come or say it's not yet, but in reality it is. I mean, every election, usually within a day or two, we kind of know what it's going to be.
Yep.
Going to cross some T's and dot some I's, but all in all, it looks like we got a 46th president of the United States, kind of like you and I both predicted.
I think so. Yeah, I think I said about 75%.
I got a lot of people mad at me for that prediction. It was just a prediction. It's not who I voted for.
No.
And everybody probably should know that this is the second time I voted for Trump. But I just had a feeling that there was a change and a backlash, and so I'm sure we'll talk more about it.
I think also probably, he'll be number 46, and Kamala Harris will be actually the 49th vice president.
Yep.
She'll be the very first female vice president we've ever had.
And, I tell people all the time in my classes that the politics of Barack Obama and myself are not on the same course or the same playing field, but having him as a president was something that our country, I thought, needed at some point in time.
I agree.
I'd love for it to be someone like Colin Powell or someone like that to be, the breakthrough. But to have a woman, you have to think about it, just 108 years ago in 1912, women had the right to vote finally. So, I mean, this is a huge thing to have a woman vice president.
I agree. I've heard some people say that President-elect Joe Biden received the most votes. Well, I'm going to break this out to you. Is honestly, when your population increases, that tends to happen, and you vote more than last time. They think there were somewhere between 61 and 64%. 1908 actually had the highest voter turnout. I think 65%, somewhere around there. And we haven't breached that yet. And it does sadden me that we have almost a 40% of the population that still does not vote.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you right now, it's hard for me to believe with as much social media, as much radio, talk radio, as much TV and newscasts, that those 40% don't have an opinion. It's you gotta be kidding me if you think 40% of the population is not involved at all, either with a Trump flag or with have an opinion about Biden and the Democratic Party, but you don't go vote, and there's no reason for it.
So one thing I'll say is my wife, she substitutes teaches. And she told me that 3 days after, the election that night, there was a whole lot of talk in the school. And she goes, Ian, you'll really be surprised how intelligent our youth is. I think we have a smarter voter across the populations than we ever had.
Sure.
I think some are still swayed, and, we can go down rabbit holes on that. But I think in a general consensus, our voters are more intelligent than they've been in many years.
Sure, and one of the things as a person that teaches history and government, you hear all the time, well, civics is not being taught in school. A lot of that was back, I believe, in the in the 80s and 90s. A lot of that was being taught by coaches that didn't want to coach but had to coach had to teach to be a coach. But I tell you now, there's a lot of us that want to have informed voters more than anything. So when someone says, "Oh, I'm glad that you go teach because you teach real history," well, who knows real history? It depends. If I take a history directly out of a book, who published that book? If I teach something that I've read and I like reading more of a right conservative view than a left, liberal view, am I teaching that? But I will say this: you are right. The inmates that I teach are very well. Have a lot of knowledge. Mm-hmm. We did a vote, which was very surprising, that they actually almost 2-1 voted. They can't vote, of course, in Texas, but we had a mock vote. 2-1 voted for Trump. They like his leadership. They like his attitude. Yeah. Which a lot of times you think that voting bloc would be more of a Democratic. But we got a lot of things to talk about. Got a lot of things that are going to come up in the next few months. But I don't think it's doom and gloom, as everyone says.
No.
If you know the history of elections, you know the history of administrations, you know the history of our country. There's been worse times. There's been better times.
I agree, Coach. I put out a Friday's Thought to Ponder, and I kind of we've had 244 years of our country so far. And as of so far, we've had 45 presidents.
Sure.
There are 45 that's held the highest office in America. And actually, since Ronald Reagan, some will even say that it's the highest office in the world. Since World War II, some would say that it's the highest office in the free world. That's 13 of them.
Yeah.
And that's 6 of them since Ronald Reagan. And they've all held that. They all had a different approach. That's a fact. And, when we look at 45, President Trump, people like to point out the negative things to him. But one thing I will say about President Trump, he was results oriented.
Sure.
And then with 46 coming in, I think his presidency will he will be a more cordial president than anything else.
And you already see that now
Yes.
with some of the things coming out being said. We want to have unity. We want to have, American, not a blue or a red, and unity. And some of those things, I'll tell you, the generation that we're living in now, sometimes, I'm not saying you have to assimilate to everything, but the generation that we live in now, I think sometimes you have to realize where you are. Trump was needed for a time.
Yep.
But what I think we need now is we need some unity. I don't know if another 4 years of Trump would have done anything more than just put it off where we're going to go as a country. And I don't mean some leftist socialist crazy way. I mean, just back to, people being able to have a difference of opinion, and want to have a cordial conversation about it. I have many of those. And for some reason in the last couple of years, it's like they've gone away.
So one interesting thing that I've seen lately in this last week, and I've seen it before, but it's been now that we realize who's going to win, is how could you possibly vote for this person if you don't see it my way? And my deal is this. I voted for President Trump. That's not hidden. That's no secret. Because some of the things that he does matches how I was raised on how I see our country. I see things, a strong military. I see things, us being a very assertive in foreign policy and things of that nature. I see energy independence as being very important. That drove our economy. So this is something unique not unique, but I've seen a lot of it. Well, if you voted for him, how could I ever like you?
Right.
I'm sorry, that was the deciding factors who I voted for. If I didn't ever say anything, you would have liked me then. So my deal is at the end of the day, I would love to see the country get where we vote 90%.
Sure.
And if I vote and my guy never wins, it's okay because at least we had the country speak and the country drive the direction. The people of the country drive the direction of the country as it should be.
Absolutely. We're we the people. Now we become we the party.
Yes.
And we the people means that if you have 90% of the population, we had a very high turnout this time, and some are terrified of that. I heard on some of the people on conservative radio saying, if we have this high turnout that it's looking like, this is on day one, then that's a bad sign for the Republicans. Well, you know what? If that's the case, then that's a problem because we the people, we want all the people to vote. I'd rather be 92%.
I'd rather be that and I'd be wrong.
And that's the way you have to look at it. Now, one of the things that I don't want is I don't want a leftist, socialist, communist country. I don't think we're going to go there. Our founders set up a document. Constitution is going to keep us at a certain way. But I am a little bit worried about the future. One of the things I would want to say is I have a friend of mine that we grew up with, and I'm not going to name him, but I think highly of him. And he's a black guy, and he's been terrified of his son in the last few years being on the street because things come up with police brutality. Not only that, but the way that some of the perception is with Trump is he doesn't care. He doesn't care about people. He cares about, like you say, results. And one of the things that he posted that, character matters. We were told that. We're supposed to grow up and tell the truth, supposed to grow up and be good to others. But somehow in the last couple of years, we've kind of not done that under the umbrella of, well, we have a good economy. Oh, we have low unemployment.
Yep.
So it doesn't matter how someone acts. I think what this was, and just to make this quick, is I think a lot of this was people not resetting us to where we were before, but resetting the character of what it should be to be a leader and an American in a country where there's all kind of different people. And I don't have to always agree with that, but I can understand that. There's a lot of people that think different than me because they were raised different than me. And I think President Trump did not embrace any of that. He embraced a lot of good things for our country, for the results, for the
Yeah.
economy, and for the oil industry. And I mean, he's great with trade. Loved the way he dealt with Middle East peace. But when it came down to when people wanted to hear from a leader to feel or to hear some empathy and things that were going on in the society, he stoked it the wrong way.
Yeah, he was not that guy.
No.
Not at all. One thing I'll say, Coach, is I think after every election, the side that doesn't win
Oh, yeah.
comes out and says, "Is this it for our party? Is this it for?" I remember when George W. Bush won, that they were saying it was the nail in the coffin for the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And we see
It's
how
not.
it is now. The other thing I'd like to say is currently there's we have one thing that is very unique in our country is we have 50 different states, and 50 different states have 50 different ways to vote.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes the national election, and there are various lawsuits that are going out there on count and things of that nature. And my personal opinion as the vet, I will say this is I'm okay for it. I don't think it's going to change anything, but this is my deal is if it gets to the Supreme Court and they'll listen to it and they find out there were some irregularities and they are able to fix it, heck yes. So that way it just kind of gets it done and get it out on the table. Because we do have a little process here that we have 2.5 months before the guy walks into office anyhow.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not hurting anything. Some will say it doesn't unify the country. I think most of the country is close to being behind who or accepting already who it is.
Sure.
I don't think the lawsuits will change that. But, just think about this. And this isn't two wrongs make a right, but we know there's a high bar for the Supreme Court to listen to something.
That should
one.
be.
It should be.
Yeah.
So it's got to either have some factual stuff to it or it's got to have some momentum in order for the Supreme Court to listen to it. But we spent 2 years on a freaking Russian collusion, and we spent 2 years on trying to get impeached because from day one we said we was going to impeach somebody. And we did that just to see what we could find out, which we found out really nothing except this and that, a lot of misinformation. But this here, if it does change the confidence in the voters, or if it changes our process, say it's in Texas or it's in Michigan, wherever it may be, that will benefit our country, maybe that's needed.
Right, and there's not just one state. There's 4 or 5 states.
Yeah.
People that Trump would have to win tens of thousands, maybe 100,000
Hundreds
votes.
of thousands. Yeah.
And you can't keep a secret in a room with 3 people.
No.
And you're going to have a nationwide voter fraud conspiracy to
Yeah.
everybody behind the table. And these are local people. These aren't CIA, FBI people doing a coup d'etat. These would be people like you and I that live in White House, Texas, like myself, and get together with other people in White House, Texas to conspire in White House, Texas, along with 80 to 100 other counties in this state, and other states do the same thing without nobody knowing. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't believe that's what's going on. There's irregularities in every election. There's voter fraud in every election.
Yeah.
It's been going on for years. How do you do you not realize that in the 1960 election, probably Richard Nixon won that election?
Yeah.
But JFK and the Chicago people decided that's not the way it was going to happen.
Yeah.
We don't talk about that. But it depends on who won. I guarantee you 4 years ago, I don't know if you remember this, a lot of people should, people were saying that Trump stole the election because of Russian collusion. The Russians got Trump elected.
Yeah.
We heard the same thing. You know what we wanted to do? Oh, move on. Hillary's not president. You're just mad because she's not president. Trump's our president. Well, that's what we have now. We have a new president, and there's going to be some that are going to be totally mad about it. I've got friends of mine that are absolutely mad at me about it because I just pretty much said the other day, if the elections stand, but Biden's my president.
Yeah.
And I heard for 4 years you're mad because people wouldn't say Trump's not my president, and now you're doing the same thing in the first week. It's hypocritical. So we have to come together as a country, and consequences. The elections have consequences.
Oh, they do.
And
They
the Senate is going to be an issue. I believe we talk about that soon. That I got a feeling that Georgia is going. There's going to be mass
For that
craziness there for that, and
Yes.
I got a feeling that it's going to be hard for Trump. Did something that we didn't understand. Not only did he lose this election, but he also got us probably lose the Senate.
Yeah, so
And I
right
hate
now
to
I think
say
they're
that.
48-48.
Right, but they're going to have runoffs in Georgia.
But Georgia will have a runoff, and then yes, so that'll
And
be
if
challenging.
that state voted mostly Democrat,
Yep.
That state's going to continue mostly Democrat.
Yep.
And they're going to see some of this calmness that's going to come after this unity they're talking about for the Democratic Party. They're going to put on this great show. And if they pick another 2%, the election's over.
Yeah. No, I agree on that. I think Georgia, surprisingly, nobody thought that, for a while, holds a strong key.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and one more thing I wanted to say, and I forgot, and I don't mean to interrupt you, is the Florida Gore-Bush thing. That was one state, one issue, one problem. Supreme Court needed to get involved to fix that. The Supreme Court in Florida made a decision that was really unconstitutional.
Yes.
That was one state, one issue with the ballots. It has to be in every state, not just a few. I mean, every county, not just a few. We're talking about 4 or 5 states. We're talking about there's not even legal issues that we know of at this time.
I agree. I will say for, people out there, we talked about this at home. It does look kind of ironic that, hey, the 5 states were all Democrat run.
Sure.
The 5 states were all urban population. And except for 2 of them, the 5 states, 95% the president was leading, and 90%, right below 90%, he was leading in the other 2. And so that kind of looks strange. But if you think of the dynamic of voter population,
Sure.
When a county like my county, Camp County, turns it in, trust me, they're only turning in one big batch,
Right.
because it's a small county. But when a county like Wayne County and Detroit, they're turning in batches to get them moving because they have Detroit there.
Sure.
And so by not intentional design, but by how the system is made up, there will be an influx in the urban area at the end.
Right, and there's also, it's not that there's 2 different elections, but there really is 2 different ballots being turned in. Number one, the day that you go vote or early voting in your system where you put a ballot in, those are known immediately on election day.
Yes.
Those are always normally heavily, Republicans like to go out, stand in line, do their civic duty, and boom. But you got mail-in and absentee ballot. Those are always going to be more. And when you're talking about Philadelphia,
yes,
when you're talking about Detroit, when you're talking about Atlanta, those are going to be 75 to 90% Democrat.
Yeah, and there's a lot of polling stations in there as
Right.
well. So that brings that
Now
challenge.
you're talking about COVID, which brought out more mail-in ballots than ever.
And then certain states even have same-day registration
Sure.
voting, which I'm not necessarily a fan of that. I think if you had 2 years to plan to vote on a normal election and 4 years to plan on the other one, why do you need to wait till the last day? Because what I don't want to see is some people go out there with $1,000 and go get all the homeless and buy them a bunch of Burger King, say go vote for my guy.
Yeah.
At the last minute, that breeds kind
There's
of
always been that kind of stuff, though.
Yes.
And you know what? You're not going to stop that because people are conspiring. People are hateful. But to a point of Joe Biden's going to end up getting probably close to 80 million votes. Just put that in perspective. If you'd have told me 6 months ago that Joe Biden would have got 65 million votes,
I agree.
I'd have said it's crazy. But I believe what happened is Van Jones said something 4 years ago. This was a white lash when Trump won. And I didn't agree with that. But I believe this was a black lash against President Trump and the way that he treated people over the last few years, that they got more people went to vote, not that they went and found them in places. More people wanted to go vote him out of office than vote for Joe Biden.
Well, Coach, what I'll say is we had this conversation over here, the wife and I, and she goes, Ian, if you remember, in 2016, we all knew that the worst character for our country was Hillary Clinton. So there was a whole lot of people that came out to vote against her out. And the same type of, she said, nobody's voted policy. What has happened is they voted the character.
Exactly.
And first one was against Hillary because we knew that was not good for the country.
Right.
And the next one was people voted against Trump. Same amount of people that hated Hillary, same amount of people hated Trump.
And back then in 2006, we called it the ABC issue, anybody but Clinton.
Yes.
And now it's anybody but Trump.
Yes.
Because I had people online, friends of mine that I grew up with in East Texas, said I would vote. And they made some funny memes out. I'll vote for, a crackhead doing this before I vote for Trump because of his character.
Yeah. And I agree. It was his character. It's the way, I think some of the things that he thought, if you pull the scab off of it, let's go attack it and we'll get after it. But sometimes you pull that scab a little too hard, and you're kind of starting to
This might be the only negative for him not being a politician.
Yeah.
Because being a politician knows that there's a time to put your foot down. There's a time to back it off, getting ready for an election because you need to be reelected to keep your policies going. And I don't think he has a lead foot. I don't think he has a back off.
No, he doesn't. And for me, with Joe Biden, I'm hoping the presidency is defined on him being cordial towards our country. I would, knowing what I've seen in the past with him and President Obama, I am really hoping that he takes his foot completely off the gas on any foreign policy, because they never hit a home run one.
No.
Not even a single or a double. I mean, I think they had a couple of fouls. They just flat out struck out in foreign policy. But that typically is party centric on that too. And I just hope that he does a few bunts and just calls it a day on foreign policy.
Sure.
And,
Well, last thing I'd like to say on this is going to be very interesting over the next couple of months. We've always had a very peaceful transition. Trump, if he's going to go for re-election again in 2024, he needs to start that process now. He can't just be elected now with his followers, as we call them.
Yeah.
He's going to have to do some changing, and if he will go out of this thing with some kind of dignity and peace and show the best for the country, this sets up his run in 4 years. If he acts the same way that he's acting now, he's going to have 40 or 50 million people that are going to follow him off the dead end cliff. But that's not going to get you elected anymore.
Yeah, Coach, I personally don't think he'll run again. I think he'll move on to be a businessman again and enjoy life. And
I actually hope so. It'll be something in history books that we look back, and there was a time that it was a very interesting time in the country's history.
I personally think that he won't run again, and I think everybody in his family except one is unelectable.
Sure.
I think the only one that's electable is Ivanka.
Think so?
I think
Yeah.
out of all of them, because she didn't stir the pot.
Yeah.
She just kind of moved along, and she put her input in every now and then, and she's kept her grace on most parts.
I'm going to write. We do you do the Friday Thought. I do a Coach's Corner. I'm going to write one recently, or coming up soon. I've been thinking about it, on the phenomenon of the country boys' love of the city slicker Trump. It still, to me, amazes me.
Yes.
Because if you'd have said 5 or 6 years ago, we're going to, in East Texas, we're going to see bales of hay with Trump 2020, flags flying everywhere, boat rallies all over East Texas, over a New York City slicker, Fifth Avenue, everything gold in Trump Tower, I said, you're absolutely nuts.
I agree.
And I don't understand it.
And when we went to that Trump rally on the boats,
Are you kidding me?
those were some of the nicest people in the world. It didn't matter who you voted for. If you voted against them, they wasn't putting you down. They would have took their shirts off for you.
Right.
And just great people, just nice people, just wanted to have a good time. They were passionate about who they supported. But I swear, if somebody would have fell in the water, they wouldn't have said, "Are you a Trump supporter or not?" They would have jumped in after you. They were good people.
It's still a phenomenon that I'm still racking my brain over to figure out how the Pace Pecani sauce, New York City get a roast. It comes in my mind. How in the world do we have these guys
Who would
out
ever
these
thought
coffee
that?
shops in East Texas drinking 45-cent coffee?
Yeah.
Would be falling in love with Donald J. Trump from Manhattan.
Yeah.
Makes no sense. But anyway.
Well, hey, America, we got our number 46 coming up.
Yes.
And we still have the 45 in the office, and he's still going to be there to January.
Still going to act a donkey.
Yeah.
He's going to act a donkey until January 20th.
I think he'll mellow out after about January 18th or so.
I don't.
And,
He's got something up
and I think he'll drop a lot of pardons, which rightfully so.
Oh, they always do.
So anyway,
Well, hey. Pardon himself.
Yeah. Well, he won't. You can't unless he's convicted of something.
Or
he could for the impeachment. But
well, he actually could do this. I did hear that he could do this real quick. He could step down, let vice president be the president, and the vice president pardon him. Didn't that what happened with Nixon? Not Jimmy Carter, Gerald Ford.
Gerald Ford, but he did it not immediately. I don't remember.
Didn't matter. He resigned, and then after he resigned, he pardoned him.
Yeah, he did.
So it's possible. It's historically it's there.
That'd be crazy because then we would have a 47th president, not a 46th president. That would be insane.
I hadn't even thought about that.
That would be insane.
Wow.
But that's
I
not
hope that happens. I just want to see this play out. No, I'm just kidding.
That'd be interesting.
This would be some great talk radio.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for joining us, and happy elections to everybody. It's not that bad. We're going to get through it. Don't you think, Coach?
There's no doubt. The country's great.
Yeah.
Foundations set years ago for crazier stuff than this.
Yeah. So stay tuned to us for anything that you want to talk about, especially social, government, politics. And from the coach
to the vet.
Yes, sir. Stay tuned, stay tuned, stay tuned. you.